Yo, what's going on, good people? What's going on? I hope you guys are doing well tonight. I am hopping on here because there was recently a shooting that just happened in San Diego. I think it was at the beginning of the month. What's up, Alex? And so a lot of people are wondering whether or not the shooting was justified or not. And so I figure what we can do tonight is I'll actually play some of the video and then we'll talk about together as a group, whether or not we thought this was justified or wasn't justified. It actually came to us out of San Diego, and what happened was I'll kind of give you guys a little bit of the context before I bring the video up. But a little bit of the context is it sounds like the San Diego County Sheriff's Department was serving an eviction notice on a female at her apartment complex, and so when they arrive at her apartment complex, um, they knock on the door, boom, boom, boom. Hey, we're serving an eviction notice. And a girl actually shows up with a knife at the door. And so I'm going to play the video here. I'm giving just a couple more minutes for people to come in. But I'm going to play you guys a video. We'll have a quick discussion about it, whether or not it was justified or not. But it's kind of crazy. And I think the shooting, I'll kind of give you guys a little bit of foreshadow. I definitely think the shooting itself was justified. The question becomes is, did they have to go the way they did to talk to her and apprehend her? So let me go ahead and play the video right now. Thanks everybody for coming. I'm gonna go ahead and add this to the stream right now. We're gonna watch right now.
Hey, how's it going?
What is it?
Hi.
What is it?
Are you Youngly?
Yes.
Okay, here's a notice to evict. Okay?
What?
It's your notice for... Put the knife down right now or I'm gonna put your knife down. Put the knife down.
You
Put the knife down right now. Put the knife down right now.
How do I know you are an intruder?
All right, so one second. So let's pause right there for a second. So obviously, as we pause right there, it shows like this guy is serving the eviction notice. She shows that she has a butcher knife in her hand. I don't know if you guys realize that she has a butcher knife in her hand, and so it looks like the kind of like the sleeves of the deputy that's at her door. I don't know if he's undercover. I don't know if he's a part of the court service offices or whatever. But there's a part in here. I don't know if we got to it yet, but there's a part where she says, "How do I know you're not an intruder? How do I know that you're not a real police officer?" So that's kind of the exchange that's going back and forth. You're not a real police officer. I'm gonna call the police. I'm gonna call the police because for whatever reason she thinks that I don't know if she's just saying that or she really believes that this is somebody that's claiming to be a police officer. Let's continue watching.
What is it?
Hi.
What is it?
Are you Youngly?
Yes.
Okay, here's a notice to evict. Okay?
What?
It's your notice for... Put the knife down right now or I'm gonna put your knife down. Put the knife down.
You
Put the knife down right now. Put the knife down right now.
How do I know you are an intruder?
$15 out of 5, one at gunpoint. Code cover. Put the gun down, ma'am. I'm gonna shoot you. Put the gun down.
How do I know?
Put the gun down or I will shoot you.
Try to enter my apartment.
15 Adam 5, code cover. One at gunpoint with a knife. Drop the knife, please. Don't make me do this.
No, I'm not dropping.
Drop the knife now.
Hey, I'm a fake police officer.
I am not a fake police officer. Drop the knife. Drop the.
So let's pause there. So let's just say that her claims that she thinks that he's a fake police officer. Now I'm assuming usually sheriff deputies, they wear the tan and green, so he probably was in his normal uniform. Now I've had people in the past, suspects in the past, while I'm in uniform, tell me that I was a fake police officer. So is it possible that people go around acting and portray themselves to be police officers? Yes, it's possible. Does it happen every single day? No. So she could be deflecting, especially you got to realize that this is already an emotionally charged event because she's getting served eviction notices. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen videos before or heard of incidences before where somebody gets served an eviction notice and all hell breaks loose. We had it happen in the city that I work in where a guy grabbed an assault rifle, shotgun, and just basically, and then he ended up setting the house on fire while actively shooting at police officers. Eviction notices are crazy just because people become attached to where they live. They're afraid that they're going to be homeless on the street. So there's a whole bunch of reasons why she could have got charged up like this. That's not to mention she could be mentally ill or she could be on drugs. So there's a whole bunch of unknown factors. But what's clear is that the officer is giving her clear commands to put the knife down, and she's not complying. Let's continue watching. So I'm gonna pause right there. This was just a crazy, scary situation, no doubt about it. They're all in this hallway. Now, if you're in law enforcement, you're familiar with that hallway, that doorway being called the fatal funnel. The reason it's called the fatal funnel is because you can get trapped in that doorway, and a lot of bad things can happen in that doorway, which is like what we're seeing right here before our eyes. You have a whole bunch of people in there that are, trying to get this lady out. She eventually charges at one of the officers, and she actually stabs him. One of the officers was admitted to the hospital. He got out that night, but she's successful in stabbing this officer. And so the question becomes, was the shooting justified? Now, if you ask me, the shooting absolutely was justified on value about it because coming at the officers with a deadly weapon. But what we have to ask ourselves the question is did the officers handle the situation up until that point appropriately? And that's what the investigation is gonna reveal. So first and foremost, I want to give you guys the heads up that I'm not Monday morning quarterbacking. I'm telling you what's going to happen when it comes to the investigation as to whether or not this was right or wrong. One of the things that they're going to look for is, did they escalate the situation? So yes, the shooting itself is justified, but did they escalate the situation and did they try to de-escalate? Now, some more of the information that came out after the fact is I guess there was a threat that came out or somebody reported in the same apartment complex that she attempted to stab somebody or threaten somebody with a knife the day before. So that's all good and dandy because, what that does is it gives the officers a reason to have a crime that they're going there outside of the eviction notice. They now have a felonious crime that they're investigating, which is assault with a deadly weapon. However, they didn't get that information until after she had already barricaded herself inside of that apartment complex. And that's what's going to be interesting because, obviously if they had that information beforehand when they were serving the eviction and they know they're going there to investigate a felonious crime, now you have the threshold is a little bit higher because you have a felonious suspect that's not complying with your commands, who's a danger to everybody else. They didn't get the information until after the fact that she had threatened somebody the day before. So it still makes her a felony suspect, but they didn't have that information after the fact. And so that's important information to understand when we're talking about looking into how this investigation is going to turn out, because they're going to ask the officers, the question is, did we handle this situation the best? Could we have avoided using deadly force on her? And that's always going to be the question that comes to everybody's mind is, yes, the shooting itself, she runs at an officer with a butcher knife in her hand. That's justified. The officers have the lawful authority to protect themselves and protect other people from an imminent threat that could cause great bodily injury and or death. So they have every right to defend themselves as they did in this scenario. The thing that comes into question is, did they create an exigent circumstance that caused them to have to utilize the deadly force? So there's some different techniques that we've used in law enforcement. I've used myself. Some of those techniques just so happen to be where you do a surrounding call out. For example, let's just say that she's not listening to what we're saying at the doorway. We hand her the eviction notice and she goes back in her apartment and shuts the door just like she did. What we might say is, hey, if we still have a lawful reason to be there, then what we might do is we might do a surrounding call out. That means that we're not going to go in that doorway. We're just going to stay there. We might have the SWAT team come out. We'll have negotiators come out, and we're just going to make phone calls and make every single effort. We're going to exhaust every mean that we can until we absolutely, no doubt, have to go into that apartment. And we will only go in if it's necessary. Sometimes we might just wait until they come out. At some point, they got to come out. Now, what could raise the exigency for officers having to go in there? What could raise it maybe is, let's say somebody else is inside and she could be a threat to somebody else inside of that apartment complex. Now that could create an exigent circumstance causing them to now inside. But as of looking at this video, we don't know if that was the case. The other thing to consider is, who's to say that the officer just couldn't have handed her the eviction paper, and once she had it in her hand, you can walk away. I know I've done that before. We've handed people eviction papers or some type of we'll hand them a restraining order, and they don't want to cooperate, they don't want to listen, and all this other stuff. And so I just walk away like, hey, it's not my fault. Like, hey, if you could take that up with the court, whether or not you think this is lawful, a restraining order, a lawful eviction notice is not my problem, and I'm out. So that could have been called in question. Could the officer left? What was the exigency that caused the officers to have to go inside of this apartment? So this is not what I'm saying as far as whether or not this is right or wrong. This is just what's going to come up in the investigation when we're looking at it. So if we're asking ourselves the question, was this situation justified or not? Those are the things that we have to look at. So I'm going to play the video one more time just because there's some people that just popped in. And then I'll do one last recap. So, and then CIA said, my question is, why did they rush the situation? And that would be my question. I'm not questioning the fact whether or not they utilize deadly force. I'm just questioning the fact that do they have to go in there and make this an exigent circumstance to get to her. So let me play the video one more time, and then we'll
15 out of 5, one at gunpoint. Code cover. Put the gun down, ma'am. I'm gonna shoot you. Put the gun down. Put the gun down or I will shoot you.
Try to enter my apartment.
15 Adam 5, code cover. One at gunpoint with a knife. Drop the knife, please. Don't make me do this.
No, I'm not dropping.
Drop the knife now.
Again, not Monday morning quarterbacking, but if we're looking at this to dissect and figure out how can we do better as officers. Again, I'm a current police officer. There's a lot of other police officers out here watching this. What are some things that we could do? Maybe slow down. Now, it's hard to tell the officer to lower his voice just because you got to realize he has a knife that's being brandished at him, and he doesn't know whether or not this is going to rise. So people that say, oh, you need to de-escalate, you need to de-escalate. Yes, you're right, but you have to understand how hard it is to de-escalate when your heart is going 1,000 miles a minute. So as officers, that's why we have to train for situations like this, to force ourselves to try to lower our tone of voice. One of the things that I always do is I say we have to lower our tone of voice and we have to slow down our speech, low and slow. Because if you lower your tone of voice and you lower your if you lower the tone of your voice and you lower the speed of your voice, then it may get her to maybe kind of lower her tone and stop yelling at you. So that's a de-escalatory effort that we like to teach as negotiators is do low and slow speech so that way they can understand what you're saying and you're not freaking them out by yelling. So again, that's just things that I'm looking at from, and you have to realize that this is hindsight 2020. We all have the ability to watch this after the fact, but we don't understand the stress level that this deputy was induced to. So let's go ahead and continue real quick.
Not a fake police officer. Drop the knife. Drop the.
So now I don't know how much longer this is later. It's my understanding that these officers were there for over 40 minutes before they actually went into the apartment. So again, that's unknown information that we don't know. We don't know if they tried to do a surrounding call out. Somebody said that, yes, this was an apartment complex. So if it is an apartment, that does change things. It changes things because it's a little bit harder to negotiate with somebody in an apartment, especially if we don't know what floor level it is. So in a traditional scene at a house, then typically we'll surround the house. We have the PA system. You can make noises and all this other stuff. But if you're in an apartment, it definitely changes the situation tactically. And so those are things that's things that we're going to have to wait to see. Dan said, given the information at hand, did they have to breach? If yes, did they give announcements? If yes, then SWAT come out due to her having a knife unless someone is inside yelling for help. The outcome would have probably been the same due to her rushing officers with a knife. And I said the exact same thing, Dan. You're absolutely right. So SWAT should come out along with SWAT as negotiators. Typically in the old days when SWAT came out, they're going to probably breach the door anyway and go in really, really quickly. Now when SWAT comes out, they come, they surround the place, and we always say hurry up and wait. They literally go there, they sit there, and they wait until we try to get them out. And as a negotiator, one of the things that we're going to do first and foremost is we're going to get on the phone. We have a lot of intel gatherers that will start finding information, phone information, family members once she closes that door, and we'll just try to make contact via phone. And if we can make contact by phone, then at that moment in time, we start to negotiate. And we're trained negotiators. So it's not like we're just having a conversation. There's a series of things that occur in order to negotiate and try to get somebody to properly surrender themselves to us. So those are things that could be done. Now, did they do that here? I don't know. Again, this is a very, very new video. I haven't heard any information that they have yet. That's going to be information that we'll come to find out later. So let's continue to watch a little bit more. So what is that noise that you guys are hearing? That noise that you guys are hearing is they're actually utilizing a less than lethal option. It's either a beanbag round or it's a pepper ball. They're utilizing a less than lethal round. Those rounds were ineffective, obviously, but it could have escalated it, because shortly after they released that or they use that, that's when it seems like she goes on the offensive towards them. So is it possible that it could have escalated it? It's possible. Again, so we just don't know. There's so much. So that's why I say this is not Monday morning quarterbacking. This is a lot of people asking questions about a recent viral video. Let's continue. Terrible, terrible situation. Now, I wish I could zoom in on this, but I can't. She's holding the knife. You got an officer on the ground. You got an officer next to him. So not only is it dangerous for the officers that are on the ground and the dog that's right there because she has a butcher knife, but it's a terrible crossfire situation, because not only does she force the hand of the officers to utilize deadly force, but they also open themselves up to being shot by one another, just because it's a terrible situation. It's a small hallway. Like I said, it's a fatal funnel. But again, realize that this is not your typical house. This is not your normal set of circumstances. This is very difficult because you're in a hallway of an apartment building, so you already don't have a lot of room to work with. So those are just things to consider for sure. So I don't know if you heard that. One of the officer yells that he's been stabbed. So obviously she was able to effectively get to that officer really quickly. There's a drill called the Tueler drill, where it goes over how fast somebody can gain ground on an officer with a knife before he's able to pull out his gun from his holster. It is pretty amazing. I actually just posted a video. Actually, no, I haven't posted. Actually, I did post it on my Instagram, where I had somebody coming at me simulating a person with a knife and how fast you can get up on you. So that happened here in the hallway, and we see that.
Anybody hurt? I got anybody hit. I got stabbed.
Man, like that is definitely a scary situation. Look at the view, the vantage point that we're seeing right now. You have officers looking at one another. She's in the middle. You have officers on the ground. I mean, that you talk about a scary situation. Oh man, that is no joke right there. No joke.
I got stabbed. I got stabbed.
All right. So, I mean, it's a terrible situation. There's a lot of things that we don't know. Again, not Monday morning quarterbacking or anything like that. Some people are saying it seemed rushed. And so what it comes down to, was the shooting itself justified? Yes. Like I said before, if you're just now tuning in, the shooting was justified because this woman approached these officer with a deadly weapon, and they had to do what they had to protect themselves and everybody else. So the shooting itself was justified. The thing that's going to come into question is, did they rush this? Did they have to go in there? Did they create an exigent circumstances or exigent circumstance causing them to utilize deadly force? That's what's going to come up during the investigation. But there's so many unknowns out there. I am glad that everybody is safe as far as the officers are concerned. But it just kind of goes to show that there's a lot of things to consider as police officers. If you're a police officer listening to this, you want to promote up through the ranks, thinking about things way ahead of the curve is what's going to help you get there. You gotta know, you gotta start thinking about those things. Are we going to create a situation if we do this? Are we going to create a situation if we do that? Like, there's a lot of things that you have to run in your head before you actually get there, so that way you could try to avoid situations that occur like this. So any questions real quick before we hop off of here? I know a lot of people this video just start going viral today, so I figure the best way to do it is by utilizing StreamYard and YouTube, because it kind of gets the message out to a little bit quicker. Somebody said, why did they not release the canine first? Seems very rushed. And CIA, that's a good question. I mean, I wish I had the answer to that. I mean, I don't know. And that's the thing about videos, is sometimes we always like to make, or draw conclusions based off of, 3-minute video, and we just can't draw those conclusions based off of a 3-minute video. There's so much context that's missing here. Obviously, reports come out from newspapers, but even those reports can be tainted because depending on what type of publication it is, it may be slanted one way or the other. And so until the department comes out with an official release, until the investigation is done, we won't be able to answer some of those questions of whether or not, why they didn't send the canine in earlier. And then sounds good, CIA. I'll check it out. I've been busy, man. I'm actually on the road right now. I'm in Atlanta, so I haven't been able to check my emails and stuff. But man, thanks again, guys. I appreciate you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If there's any other lasting questions, please feel free to hit me up in the comments box right now. And do me a favor, if you guys like this content, do me a favor, give me a like, subscribe if you haven't already done that on YouTube and Facebook. I'm going to be doing more content where I do breakdowns and stuff like this, especially when they first occur. That way, I want you guys to get it here first. So I love you guys. I appreciate you guys as always. Panoy, appreciate you. And, let's see, Cedar Smoke Survival. Thank you, man. I appreciate all you guys that are watching this. And with that, I'll see you guys on the next one. Make sure you guys hit the like button and subscribe. Take care, guys.